Good day, viewers. I hope and believe that you are still doing fine. I'm not alone, as you can see. I'm with Hlauleka Malungani. Today we are going to talk about a generation gap. I believe that you can see there's a lot of gap between older people and younger people. So we are getting to find out what is it that causes that gap and how to mend the gap and make sure that it works for our own good, not to bring some differences in our lives. So today, as I said, that I'm not alone. Let us welcome our guest. Hlauleka, how are you?
I'm fine, thanks, and you?
I'm fine. Hlauleka, today, as I've said, we are talking about a generation gap.
Yes.
In your own understanding, what is a gap or a generation gap?
A generation gap, according to me, is differences between certain generations. Yeah, between an older generation and a younger generation, but also in between that, there are 5 different generations. So you might get that there is a gap between, for instance, I am part of the Generation Z gap, and there can be a gap between my generation and the millennials. So it's not necessarily more of older people, and younger people can be also in between different generations or age groups.
Okay. Can you give clarity on that so that everyone will understand what are you trying to say when you say not exactly between older and younger, but between the millennials? I mean, can you give the clarity on that one?
Okay, well, there are 5 generations that currently live on Earth. So
Okay.
it's the silent generation, the baby boomers,
Okay.
Generation X, Generation Y, which are the millennials, and
Okay.
Generation Z.
Okay.
Basically, the 2000 kids. Yeah, so generation gap, all these generations are classified according to different struggles or different times that they grew up in, or what was happening in the world during those times. So you might get that the way we do things isn't the way Generation X does things. So there is a gap between them in how they live, how they do life, and how they speak, how they wear.
Okay. Okay, so you agree that there's a gap, and this gap can be seen or identified on the way people speak. So what you're trying to say that as the years differs in between, language changes, the way we present ourselves. It's like every aspect of life get to change due to the to the differ of generations. And what is the influence of that?
Sure. I think as the years go by, the world is evolving, people are evolving, things are different. So I think that can be the cause of it. The struggles my parents went through aren't the struggles that I am currently going through. So that is the cause of that. The way they were raised isn't the way I am raised now. Not in terms of per se how they were parented, but also things going on in the world around us, like our environment. Yes.
So I'm trying to say that the environment that you are growing in, it does have a great influence in the way you view life or in the way you live.
Absolutely.
So, okay, at the same time, the very same environment you're talking about is not only, maybe let's say we're talking about your schooling, we're talking about maybe where you go with your friends and all those. But what about the environment in your home whereby they groom you? So, why can't you take some of the groomings that you find in your environment, in your family? Because in most cases, in this gap that we see, it's like more especially in young people, let me use this one, we see more of the environment that is not family related, that is more schooling and friends related. Why is that?
Sure. I think it goes back to the things of what's going on around us. You know, we think our parents are old fashioned, and they do things differently to us. So it's very difficult for us to relate with them or to them.
Okay.
So yeah, and it goes back to, they do, like, environment does affect us in terms of the age we find ourselves in. For example, now we're living in the digital age. So yeah, everything we do revolves around that. At home, you might get, we are always on our phones. Yeah. Yes.
Okay, I understand that. So what you are trying to say is that sometimes the family setup or the environment of or your families, it does affect you, but simple because now there's a lot of things around you. So what I can say is that it's all about a preference. Simple because if it's all about then all environment, we should be seeing all environment being reflected in the same person. But now we mostly see, not that we don't see the family environment showing up at times, but in most cases we see more of this street environment, schooling, and digital, as you have said. Why then? Is it a preference by saying that okay, the way my parents are grooming me is not that much, I need this one, or just happen automatically?
Sure. I don't think it's like a one size fits all. You do get that there are young people who are greatly influenced or solely influenced on their family environment. But then I think majority of young people or my generation, we are greatly influenced by things going on around us. Like it's not like back in the day where there wasn't much going on. They didn't have a lot of things, didn't have to go to a lot of events. Life was simpler back then. Now things are fast changing. Yeah, it's just evolving.
You are right. I do understand evolving, but still, my question is it because of preference? Because I do understand that okay, you are exposed to a lot of things, and that is a fact. But as much as you are exposed to a lot of things, still you are exposed to a family setup whereby maybe they will say, okay, do some house chores, sweep in the morning, and all those. Don't you think those things are still relevant to your life? Because most of you, as you have said, that majority, yes, majority, they don't choose to do as a family environment teaches them to, but they always choose to do the outside. That's why I asked the question, don't you think it's some preference simple because maybe the outside environment is more comfortable more than the family one?
To a certain degree, yes. Yes, I think so. I think with some people, it's preference. In some cases, your environment shapes you. Every environment you're in shapes you. So I think maybe the external environment is just a bit more powerful than the internal one because it's a lot of things. The family institution is just
Small.
yeah, and then outside there's just a lot of things going on, so that has a greater influence on an individual or on a young person.
So can you say that because of that, the outside one is more influenceable because okay now it's the environment on itself and the people who are on that environment still they play a role of influencing you. So like maybe your peers and all those. So do you think that it's a contributing factor for someone to feel like the outside one maybe is the one I can choose better than the family one?
Definitely, I think it does have an impact, a great impact on how you do life, the external environment. Not everyone, sometimes you get that the youth feel like they don't have a choice, they just succumb to the pressures of the world because it's so much going on. I mean, your family is you and your mom, your dad, your siblings, the outside world. When you interact with other people, it's school, it's church, it's work, it's a lot of people versus just your. So you get that some children can't stick to the way they were raised in the family, the values, because it just gets too much. You get overwhelmed, and then you succumb to the pressures of your external environment.
Mm. But what can you say is the cause of that succumbing to the external one? The really cause, more especially if maybe you are talking as young people. I mean, what do you think is a cause? Why do you think the external one have more weight to put on you and on to exert on you to make you prefer it more than the one you grow up from?
So I think the first thing is identity. When you don't have self-identity, when you don't know yourself, it's very easy for you to fall into different things. And I think also the way that each generation is also raised by their parents contribute. Like, they don't teach us to like be built to survive the outside world, as we call it. So I think definitely when you don't know yourself, it's easy to succumb to what friends say, and you end up valuing what your friends say, or social media more than what your parents say. So it can be a choice, peer pressure, when you don't know yourself, lack of self identity, self worth, self everything. Yes.
But I think parents are doing or are playing basically a great role, because I do believe that they do sit their children down and to talk to them, tell them about how life it is, more especially because they have a lot of experience. I think from childhood, parents they always say that when you become a teenager, they sit you down, tell you about the challenges. Even when you go to school, they sit you down and tell you about the challenges you're going to face and all those. But still, I think that young people, they just like intentionally so don't choose what parents are saying. Do you think there's a cause behind that? Simple, because I believe that most parents they do sit you down, like not only just only your parents, sometimes they ask your cousins, sometimes they ask your sister to sit you down. Don't you think that you have enough education at home to prepare you for the outside world? Do you think you don't have such preparation?
um, yeah, debatable. That's debatable, but because I think approach is very important. The way our parents, it's not all of them that sit us down and tell us this is how, and even if they do, it goes back to generation. All these different 5 generations process things differently. Like take in information differently, react differently. So I think they don't really tailor it in a way, the information that is the content, in a way that we understand. So you get that. um, and this could be me just being biased, but I think the context, they give the content but not the context of what really goes on, the sitting down, the tone they use, the language they use. We don't relate to that. Not just my generation, but all these generations, there's a way in which we relate to things, we take in information, we process information. So yeah, they do sit us down, but I think also how they do that matters, the approach.
But I think most parents, what you are saying is that most parents, their approach is not the good one.
Yes.
No, I disagree with that. I disagree with that. I do disagree with that. Anyway, I respect what you are saying. But at the same time, what is so surprising is that on the outside world or environments that you are exposed to, there's a lot of behaviors that you show or that you practice that you find that nobody taught you, like sit you down and taught you such, but somehow because it's happening where you are in your surrounding, you find yourself doing it. That's why maybe I'm coming back to that point of saying, don't you think it's a prevalence, because maybe of thinking, it's your mentality of saying that, of thinking that maybe our parents, you mentioned something earlier, that our parents maybe are outdated. Don't you think that on its own, that mentality somehow affect the way you react to what they taught you? Because most of the things that you do, nobody taught you, but you just observe it and you find doing it.
Yes, I think that's true, and I agree. Some young people, or most young people, do choose to live. I think we call it a stage. Young people feel that they need to go through a stage, in order for them to, yeah, maneuver through life. They can't skip that stage, so they have to do certain things of the world. So I think, yes, when you put it like that, they do choose to live a certain way, or do things a certain way, because they have to experience life. Like, they're young, they want to enjoy their life.
It's more of wanting to experience life, or it's more of thinking, well, this life is superb compared to the life of our parents.
I think it's a bit of both. I think yeah, it's different for different people. Some they feel like okay, yes, this life we know better than our parents, and some it's like okay, we have to experience this. We can't skip this stage. We need to enjoy our youth. So yeah,
But you think it's true that you know better than your parents? I mean, like really, when you are sitting down alone and then trying to think deep about, do you think it's the truth?
no.
But you just use it as a what? I mean, why are you always trying to convince yourself to say that okay, it's because they're outdated and all those kind of things? Is it the way of, can we call it a coping mechanism for you just to get along with what you are doing without any maybe regrets and something of that nature?
I think so. I think also another way or another perspective is because we want to get our own way. So it's like, ah, no, you don't know what you're talking about because we want to do what we want. We don't want to listen to them and do as they tell us. So it can be both a coping mechanism and also low-key a manipulative way of getting what we want. Like you don't know what you're talking about. Let me live my own life.
Wow, wow. But do you think this generation gap, does it have some positivity on it? And then if it does, what is it, that positivity?
So the gap itself now.
Mm-hmm.
I think it does. Like I mentioned earlier, every generation grew up in a certain era defined by certain things going on in the world. So every era has something beneficial for that generation or even the next, something to teach, something of value that we can apply to our own lives. For example, with us now we live in the digital world. And who knew like now this pandemic because we were already used to technology. Now we can do online learning. Not everything came to a standstill. We could still progress with life, still progress with our education, still connect with people abroad, anywhere in the world. So I think yeah, there are positives and negatives to the gap. Yes.
Wow. So, what advice can you say, maybe to this generation, as you mentioned them, five of them, as you mentioned them? I mean, how to work together or to find a balance, basically, for them to understand, or maybe for them not to, like, uh, 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 um, completely destroy each other, but to find a balance on how to work together to see, or maybe to take what is good from the other generation, and then maybe to discard what is not good, but not to entirely just say this is not good. How to find a balance for them to work together for the benefit of our community, the benefit of our country.
Sure. I think how we can go about that is through communication, because every generation has something to offer. The
Yes.
different times, so there's something. The baby boomers generation, what they learned, resilience, hard work, fighting for freedom. We can still apply those principles. So every generation has the times they live in, the lessons, principles that can apply, that don't only apply in that time now, but also in future generations. So we really need to collaborate. Each generation has something to teach another generation. So I think just encouraging each generation to let's communicate, let's collaborate, and build a relationship. I think that's also another factor. There isn't a close relationship between these because we don't really relate to each other. But we can add value to each other's lives, teach each other a lot. I can teach my parents about technology, they can teach me about life principles, values, this and that. So we do need each other, and what each generation has to offer is important. There isn't one greater than the other.
Who are the baby boomers? Can you give some clarity to my viewers? They just to understand exactly. You say that they learn to be resilient and all those. Who are those exactly? Or what are that generation you are talking about of the baby boomers?
To the audience.
Yes.
Okay, so the baby boomers are those born between 1946 and 1964. So
Okay.
yeah, so they were classified during that time. the people had just come back, the men had just come back from war. So that's why they called baby boomers, because they were away from their families, their wives, for a long period of time. So they were now having a lot of babies. So they were booming. So, but they faced a lot of opposition. I mean, during that time, they went through a lot. I mean, oppression, just different things going on in each country. So they learned to I mean, we are here today because they pushed through, they adapted to whatever was going on, but not only adapted but didn't succumb to the pressures. So they have a lot, I mean, hard work. They are like those between 50s, 60s, and 70s, I believe. So they have a lot of experience. They're here because they're resilient. They pushed back, they fought back, and yeah.
So they fought for the country, basically.
Yes.
So can you say that, okay, what do you call now the recent generation, your generation?
Okay, so my generation is the Generation Z.
Okay.
It's the people born after 1996.
Okay.
Some people argue it's people born after 1999, but it's the current generation. So from 1996 to 1999 till now, those being born currently, we are called Generation Z.
Okay.
Yes.
So what is it that is so special about the Generation Z? Something that we can learn.
My generation, we are just, we also called the I generation because we're growing up in a digital world. Currently, everything now is digital. So technology, we know the ins and outs, but not only that, we also know a lot about finances. I mean, we read a lot and we learn from our parents' mistakes, like they're in or were in debt. So we educated ourselves. Many young people now, I mean, we now more than ever, we have the youngest millionaires and billionaires ever since the beginning of this world. So to some extent, yeah, we're also hardworking, just not in the conventional way, but yeah, we technology, finances, businesses. A lot of young people now are entrepreneurs. So yeah, that's what is amazing about my generation.
Can you say that's the reason you love the phone so much? Is because you are digital. I mean, it's because of that, because you're always on the phones and all those.
Yes, I mean, now to children, phones are a need. They no longer want, because everything happens with a phone. Everything. I mean, we shop online, we learn online. Everything's literally at the tips of our fingers on our phones. So
that's why, as young as you are, you find someone like so so flexible on the phone. It's because of this stigma around you of that you were born in the time whereby technology is booming, and now you just want to know all these kind of things.
yes.
On that note, I do get you, and it's a beautiful thing, and we really appreciate the knowledge, because sometimes you do help our generation, like maybe to understand the things on these phones, and yeah, all these kind of things of which we are not that much so aware of, but you do help us. But what can you say? Because on the same time, we find these young people spending a lot of time on these cold phones, and of which is not a problem if they are shopping, when is the time of shopping, if they are maybe researching about, as you say, finances, and we are going to come there and all those. But I mean, what about those who spend a lot of time listening to music, YouTubes, and not just maybe watching something which is beneficial? I mean, like maybe people dancing the whole day and downloading things. I mean, well, what can you say as a young person, as a generation that, I mean, to your, yes,
To
your
the
peers,
audience.
yes.
I think definitely balance is necessary. With anything in life, there needs to be some form of balance. You can't spend the entire day on your phone. There's the outside world. We also need to interact with our families, our friends, not just on our phones, but physically. So I think we do get caught up in being so consumed by our phones or living on like in our phones or on our phones that we forget that there is the physical world that we still need to interact with and engage with. So I think definitely I would advise them to find balance. Some people are addicted. There is research done and statistics done or that prove that there are people who are addicted to their phones, like they have a problem of being too addicted to their phones. So if that is the case, they should definitely get help and speak up or speak out if they have that problem. But definitely we need that balance because it also has a lot of effects. If you spend too much time with your phones, it damages your eyes. You get dark circles under your eyes, your concentration also it's been proven, you don't sleep well. So I think, yeah, just find balance, integrate the two, being on your phone and also living in the physical real world.
Mm. As now you are speaking, I'm getting to realize, or a thought come just, don't you think that you being so much aware of technology and then maybe being exposed to technology and living in this era of technology whereby technology it substanting a lot of things like maybe a lot of handiwork into machines and all those. Don't you think maybe this somehow indirectly or directly is affecting your mentality to say that we don't have to work hard and all those simple because there's always an easier way to do it? I mean, don't you think, have you ever think about it, thought about it, or but maybe as now we are talking, don't you think somehow it just has some indirectly if not directly changing your perspective to say that how why we have to work hard if things can be done like this, or can buy a machine, maybe like saying even if your parents say that okay, you have to learn to wash your clothes, you have to learn to this, oh mama, I'll buy the machine, I'll buy. Even today, if, even there are dishwashers, there are clothes washers, you know, everything, enjoy everything. And don't you think somehow maybe that's another thing, a contributing factor to these young people or to this Z generation not to want to work because they depend more on technology?
Definitely, I believe so. I think another thing that defines my generation or another aspect of us, we love convenience. So we will find ways. I think the way we work hard, we want to find ways, easier ways of doing things, making our lives easier. Because it goes back to we weren't raised in a time where we had to go fetch water at the river with wheelbarrows. Like we didn't grow up where we had to everything. We need to toil for everything, work hard. Like they just always working, working, working. Like our parents or the older generations. So definitely it does contribute to us working hard. I think we just have a different way of working hard. To us now we have new careers like influencers that even pay more than the traditional jobs that our parents work hard, hard, hard for. So we do love convenience because we're not built with that resilience. Like we need to. I mean, the times we are growing up in, things are already better. Like our parents are in a different position than their parents were. So yes, to some extent, yes. We don't work hard as our parents, but I think in different aspects we do.
So, in your own generation, what is the definition of working hard? Because I'm hearing you saying that we work hard, and I'm trying to look around and get to understand what is it that is working hard. I mean, can you at least give some clarity? What is working hard are you referring to?
Working hard, oh, okay, maybe let me rephrase, let me correct myself. We work smart.
Okay.
We work smart. Like I said, we like convenience. To us, like hard. Some people do like hard work in terms of we work hard and smart in terms of business. Like I mentioned earlier, that now we have a huge workforce of young people that are entrepreneurs, business owners, so they work for themselves. So that work hard, we work hard in our jobs, in our businesses, but not so much at home. So, and our parents might think, okay, we are lazy, we don't work hard, but it's not. I'm not saying all. I'm not saying all young people, but we work hard in a different aspect in terms of we are dedicated to our jobs and not making someone else rich because our parents work for other people. Most of our parents now we want to work for ourselves, so we work hard in that aspect of we work hard and smart. We want to find new ways, easier ways of making our lives better.
But I know that even if it's not the exact statistics, but statistically, how many young people could you say that till date they are owning their businesses, successful businesses, they moneyed and all those? I mean, roughly, let me just say roughly. I mean, just to strengthen your point, as you're saying that you work smart, this Z generation, and then that's why you are so well established and all those. Because from where I'm sitting, I'm looking, and then maybe let me say roughly here in Kowankowa, or maybe most of the young people that I know, Joburg and all those, I don't see anyone with. Yeah, maybe if I read on the media, maybe YouTubes and all those, yeah, I'll say this one is 25 years and a millionaire. I mean, they're just a drop of a seed, the drop of a seed. I don't see that this one and this one, this one. So statistically, can you come up with some, not the exact one I know because maybe for now, but statistically, what can you say? I mean, what are the percentages?
So, I'm not sure roughly, but I know there's a lot of unemployment because now jobs, like you said, the machines are replacing the ordinary jobs and stuff. So not really per se all or majority of young people are millionaires, but they're starting businesses.
Oh, so it's not majority. So can you say that, can we safely say that, yes, this generation works smart and all those, but they're still finding their footing
Yes.
to get there?
Yes, and I think also location and perspective matters because you get a lot of people, a lot of young people will go to like Joburg to start businesses to find work. So when you're in this, for example, the environment we are in now, like in Guangko, you might find a lot of young people doing different kinds of things, and we feel, or parents, or the older generations feel like we're not doing much or we're not working hard, but there are a lot of people, I mean, where I study in Bloemfontein, a lot of young people are in business, not necessarily millionaires, but are finding their foot, are getting into that. And as young people, then they hire fellow young people, you know. So maybe not really in our community, but they enjoy it. And I think that's where social media, we see these things on social media, and not just like famous people, but people who we grew up in here in Congo, people I went to school with, people, someone, local schools here who now are creating opportunities for themselves or seizing opportunities because, yeah, location does matter. So you might get the current location we're in doesn't have opportunities. So young people move to different places and then we feel like, okay, the ones remaining or all the youth are not doing anything. But when you go there, and we get to see that a lot of young people are pushing, are working smart.
Are working smart. But yeah, I hear you, and then I really so much inspired about what you were saying. But when we talk about business, looking back, we find that our parents, your grandparents, and all those, they were in business, and most of these upcoming generation, from the generation that you talk about, the X and the booming and all those, from those older generation, there were always people who are in business. Even our today, you find that we have the stores, the cafes, and all those simple because our great parents, they were having business and all those, even though maybe there were smaller businesses and it was no technology involved on that, but somehow business, it was always there, and really we have seen the fruit of it because most of the children, they've managed to go to school simple because of those businesses. So when we talk about business, I still don't get the what can I call the beauty out of it, simple because business it was there. What I see now maybe is the approach, if I can call it like that. Yeah. So how can you say that now you work smart, simple because you are having businesses?
I'm not limiting entirely to just business. I think it was just me using an example. But to your question, yes, there were our parents. Not, I think it's a small portion of our parents because they most of them were under the Bantu education. Yes, maybe the stalls, the kiosks and stuff like that. But most of them, most of our parents now are either teachers or nurses or policemen. So the opportunities back then weren't much. They were very limited as to what they could do. So yes, the scale isn't the same between the businesses we have now and even what the products and services that we offer or sell between the two generations or different generations aren't the same. So yeah, not just business. Young people now are more educated. Like back then, they couldn't study your medicine, your law because of the Bantu, and they were oppressed or suppressed to follow a traditional route, or they could only. I know my mom told me back in her day they couldn't do anything else. The only options they gave them was to study teaching or go to policing or nursing. So there wasn't much going on. Now, yes, our parents are in businesses. Um, so yeah, there are a lot of stuff going on, but young people now, not just I'm not just limiting it to business, but are doing different things, working smarter in terms of even in their schoolworks, the methods in which they study. Yeah,
You
so
are right. I do understand that, but my point maybe I just wanna drive it home to say that I think now what is this gap, what it brought, it's only um, the improvement basically from what we used to have before, and because of that you find yourself being advantageous because now you have this technology, the environment allows you, but when it comes to mentality, wisdom, and all those, you can find that your parents they're the brains behind. I think you can give them a credit simple because even now they are the one who's taking you to better schools, right?
yeah.
Because somehow they do understand what these schools can do for you simple because they never get that chance. So can't you say that this generation somehow they must give a lot of credit and learn more from even, yes, I'm not denying the point of saying that if there's what can I say? If there's a platform, yes, to for improvement, if there's a platform to do things in a better way, yes, that's how life it is. Because as they say that life is evolving and all those. But however, let not this gap. Let us not allow this gap now to say that our old people now they are outdated. They are what. I think they didn't presented with these opportunities that we have. If they had, I believe they would have do better. Don't you believe it? Because
I think so. Yes, definitely.
yeah, because now you have said something. Our time is running, but I believe we are going to have a round two for this. If not next week, because I do believe that you are enjoying this and you are sitting there home saying, "Oh, if I was there, I'll be saying this and this," and even you parents, you are getting to understand. Because to be honest, as the teacher said in the book of Ecclesiastes, that to say that wisdom is a precious thing, and let us get to understand that really our parents they are so much full of wisdom and all those. I think now you are becoming more wiser and wiser because of the wisdom of those older generation. Because to be honest, I think all their pains, all their loss, all their disappointment, all whatever they've gone through, they have now invested it to make sure to instead of allowing that to be a pain forever, they have invested into the upcoming generation to better themselves, maybe through them. Because as I've said, that I believe that they are one who taking you to beautiful schools. Why? Because they do understand. They are one who buying you these phones. Because I believe most of you now, you own the smartphones even before you go to work. So I believe somehow they understand. So can we say that the older generation will be always best and smart more than the new generations?
No, let me give them credit where credit is due. It's very important, yes, to give them credit. They are very wise. They have a lot of experience, a lot of wisdom. There's a lot they can teach us. The best is debatable that they are the best, but they carry so much wisdom, the value, the things they can transfer. I mean, they're the ones who have life principles on lockdown. Like, they live these principles. So yes, the best. I wouldn't say best, but we are here because of them, and how that era or time they grew up in shaped them and what they went through. And yeah, they are an amazing generation. I'll give them that.
But still, I know they're not perfect, but still you think that there's something that 1, 2, 3 you can teach them.
Yes,
I think, but
definitely.
everything that you are trying to teach them is already what they have transferred onto you. As I'm saying, that this technology you're talking about, maybe they were not exposed to it, but somehow they are allowing you to eat. I think they're the one just got them each other. So they want this, because most of you, even now, you talk about it, we no longer have time, talk about being influencers and all those. And most of the young people today, most of them, they don't want to even go to school. I think this is going to be the next topic. We're going to have this topic again. They don't want to go to school, saying that this and this, they are not educated and all those. But see, at Lauleka, we are going to have round 2 for this. Can you just say a goodbye to our to our viewers, and just the word of advice there in a minute?
Okay, thank you guys for watching. I hope you learned something from this. And like Mama said, that the older generation or the past generations have a lot to teach us. So we still have, there's a verse, I think it's Ephesians 6 verse 1, we still have that responsibility, or God instructs us to obey our parents and respect our parents, and listen to them. So let's work together with our parents. Each generation has something to teach the next generation or the other generation. So yes, let's work together and move forward.
Viewers, thank you very much for a beautiful time. To God be the glory indeed, as we are going to meet again next week. Keep on subscribing. Love you so much. In Jesus' name, be blessed.